One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of only 3 films to win all 5 major Academy Awards, and won the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. Unlike The Odyssey, whose main character is a hero based on the actions and journeys he takes and the monsters whom he overcomes, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Randall McMurphy is a hero based on his motivation to help his fellow inmates feel in control of their lives and experience adventure outside of the walls of the mental institution in which they live. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a remarkable and eye-opening story into the world of mental institutions and the unlawful and criminal actions they took against people they believed to be mentally insane. The ordinary world of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest begins in a mental hospital with patients of severe mental conditions. The protagonist, Randall McMurphy, is sent to the institution by the prison to be tested to see if he is indeed mentally insane. The other characters realize throughout the movie that McMurphy is not the least bit insane, just a man who does not like to be controlled and does what he pleases. The beginning of the hero's journey for McMurphy, or his call to adventure, is during a group therapy session when it is established that many of the inmates are staying at the hospital voluntarily. This unexpected news shocks McMurphy because he can't comprehend how people would let their lives be controlled by a hospital when they could be out in the real world living their lives. It is this statement that motivates McMurphy to make it his mission to give the patients a sense of adventure and experience life outside of the hospital. What the other patients don't realize is that McMurphy is their own personal call to adventure, just like the patients are McMurphy's call to adventure. As the movie continues, the patients don't quite understand McMurphy's outgoing and free-spirited personality, and in turn, McMurphy doesn't understand the controlling demeanor of Nurse Ratched and the entity of the hospital. At first, McMurphy is reluctant to take the patients under his wing because he is self-interested and wholeheartedly believes that if he spends 86 days at the hospital, he will be able to get out without returning back to jail. Unfortunately, he later realizes that this is not the case, and only the hospital can decide when he is ready to leave. This shows his refusal of his call to adventure. The hero of a story or journey must be pushed and motivated by a person who plays on their emotions. In this movie, the Chief is the mentor for McMurphy. The Chief is depicted as a deaf and mute Native American that no one talks to or cares about. McMurphy takes an interest in the Chief, and one day while talking to him, the Chief responds, and McMurphy realizes that the Chief has been fooling everyone at the hospital and is in fact not deaf or mute. This realization encourages McMurphy to help other patients because he finds the mentality and lifestyle of the inmates to be disheartening and depressing. He wishes to give them real-life experiences. In contrast to this, the patients are encouraged by McMurphy, who truly listens to them and shows them that they can take charge of their lives. McMurphy quickly crosses the first threshold of the mental hospital when he takes the patients out fishing by hijacking the hospital's bus. This is the first moment in the story when the patients fully trust McMurphy and believe in the ways in which he acts. They have never felt this sense of excitement and control over their own lives. The bus escape by McMurphy also tests the threshold guardian, Nurse Ratched, by taking away the control she has fought so hard to establish over the patients. Throughout the movie, McMurphy and his fellow patients encounter countless tests, allies, and enemies that push each of them to realize new things about themselves. The first test they encounter is during a group therapy session when McMurphy asks if they can vote to change the schedule for the TV times so they can watch the World Series. In order to win the vote, he must get 10 out of 18 people to vote in favor. Unfortunately, the meeting ends before he can get all the votes, but quickly after, he gets the Chief to raise his hand, and McMurphy goes to tell Nurse Ratched. Since she knows that she cannot lose control, or leave any opening for McMurphy to take that control away from her, she says the vote is closed. A second test that McMurphy goes through is when he is given electroshock therapy for fighting with the orderlies in order to protect a patient. This is Nurse Ratched's way of showing McMurphy that she has total control. But instead, her plan backfires because McMurphy comes back after the electroshock therapy as strong as ever, and the patients have even more respect for him. The main enemy of McMurphy is Nurse Ratched because she despises him for taking away the control she's established over the patients at the hospital. The second threshold that McMurphy crosses is when he throws a party for all of the patients on the ward with alcohol and women. This is a moment of defiance for both McMurphy and the inmates because they are having a real-life experience that they can attribute to the help of their friend Mac. When the orderlies find out about the party, they are astonished and afraid because they realize that McMurphy has been successful in getting the patients on his side and losing all control and order within the hospital. The supreme ordeal of the movie occurs when Billy Bibbit, a young and innocent patient, gets called out by Nurse Ratched for engaging in sexual actions at the party and threatens to tell his mother. Nurse Ratched's punishment triggers Billy to commit suicide. After McMurphy finds out about Billy's death, He strangles Nurse Ratched for causing Billy to inflict such pain upon himself. In reaction to this, Nurse Ratched decides that the only way to ensure her control over the patients is to give McMurphy a lobotomy, a neurosurgical operation that involves severing connections in the brain's prefrontal cortex. Ultimately, a lobotomy is an unlawful tactic that many mental institutions use to calm their patients and make them incapable of doing anything besides normal bodily functions. The reward stage of this hero's journey begins with a depressing moment. The chief finds McMurphy in his bed and suffocates him with a pillow because he knows that McMurphy would not have wanted to live a life of misery. While McMurphy may not receive a direct reward for his bravery and completion of the hero's journey, the patients in which he helped experience adventure have definitely received a reward. The most prominent reward is seen when the chief picks up the top of the sink that everyone thought was unmovable, including McMurphy, throws it out the window, and escapes. The movement of the sink symbolizes the release of control that the patients at the hospital have found. Their lives no longer need to revolve around Nurse Ratched and her control, because just like the water flowing freely from the sink, the patients are free from control and are experiencing a new life and sense of adventure. McMurphy has always talked about how easy it is to escape the mental hospital, but the other patients had been too afraid to do it because of the punishment they fear they would receive. This mentality changes, however, by the end of the movie, because the other patients finally grasp that they can live without the control of the hospital. They aren't afraid to escape anymore. The resurrection part of the hero's journey, which is when the main character is transformed by their experiences, differs from the usual hero's journey, because in this movie, our hero is dead. Instead, the actions and personality that McMurphy brought to the hospital, over time, transformed the patients to become people that did not rely on the control of others. The patients felt a new sense of adventure and power and are more willing to stand up to Nurse Ratched. For example, earlier in the movie, one of the more weak and mild patients complains and throws a fit to Nurse Ratched, asking her for more cigarettes. His defiance shows that he has been influenced by McMurphy's control on his own life, and he now has the ability to stand up for himself. While Randall McMurphy's hero's journey may have differed from the conventional journey, such as Odysseus's, McMurphy was a hero because his character changed from a self-interested individual to someone who cared about helping to improve the lives of others. He wasn't afraid to stand up for himself and for his fellow inmates, even if that meant getting hurt in the long run. McMurphy may not have lived to complete his full circle of the hero's journey, but his actions greatly impacted his inmates and pushed them to be better people, as well as complete the end of McMurphy's hero's journey in honor of him and his legacy.